We have been taught that sleep is a kind of death in small doses, a blank space, a shutdown. But look closely, really look, and you will see that sleep is not absence. It is presence without noise. When you sleep, the world does not disappear. Only your grip on it does. Unconsciousness is collapse. Sleep is surrender. There is a vast difference between falling and letting go. In unconsciousness, you are pushed down. In sleep, you melt. Notice this. Even in your deepest sleep, something remains alert. Something knows when to turn the body, when to breathe, when to wake you up at the exact right moment. Who is doing that? Not the mind you call me. That mind is resting. Yet awareness continues, quietly, efficiently, without commentary. Sleep is awareness without thought. The mind is a talkative machine. From morning to night, it keeps chattering, naming, judging, comparing, regretting, planning. You believe this noise is consciousness. You think if the noise stops, you will disappear. That fear keeps you tense, awake, exhausted. But every night, despite your fear, you enter sleep, and you return again and again. Existence gently proves to you that you can disappear without being destroyed. Sleep is the rehearsal for trust. In sleep, you stop managing life. You stop holding yourself together. You stop defending your image, your identity, your wounds. You lie down, and for a few hours, you are nobody. That nobodiness heals more than all your efforts. If sleep were unconsciousness, it would not refresh you. It would drain you. But you wake up renewed, reassembled, subtly clearer, not because you did something, but because you stopped doing. Sleep is not the absence of awareness. It is awareness freed from responsibility. During the day, awareness is burdened. It must decide, react, protect, perform. At night, awareness is playful again, floating, drifting, moving without purpose. Dreams arise not as chaos, but as poetry. Symbols speak where logic rests. Dreams are not meaningless. They are messages without grammar. They appear when the sensor sleeps. You say, I was unconscious during sleep, but were you really? Or were you simply not present as the ego? The ego confuses itself with consciousness. When the ego rests, it says, nothing happened. Something always happens. Your heart never sleeps. Your breath never sleeps. Your intelligence never sleeps. Only the controller sleeps. And that is why sleep feels so delicious. It is the only time you are not trying to be someone. Think of a child sleeping. Have you ever watched a child sleep? There is no tension in the face, no future in the forehead, no past in the eyes. That innocence is not unconsciousness. That innocence is pure being. You were once capable of that same rest. You still are, but you have forgotten how to enter it consciously. Sleep invites you every night, and every night you rush into it or resist it. You either collapse from exhaustion or you fight it with worries. Rarely do you enter sleep with awareness, but when you do, sleep becomes meditation. The sages have always known this secret. The doorway to the deepest awakening looks like sleep, not the sleep of dullness, but the sleep of relaxation so total that the ego cannot survive it. Awareness does not need tension. It only needs space, and sleep is vast space. That is why insights come when you are half asleep. That is why solutions appear in dreams. That is why lovers feel closest before drifting off. The defenses are down. Truth whispers softly. Unconsciousness is darkness. Sleep is twilight. There is light, but it is gentle. There is knowing, but it does not shout. If sleep were unconsciousness, you could not wake up at the sound of your child crying, or your name being whispered, or danger approaching. Something listens even when you think you are gone. That listener is your deepest intelligence. You live your waking life as if you must control everything to survive. Sleep shows you another way, survival through trust, order through surrender. The body knows, life knows. You interfere all day. At night, life takes over and miracles happen quietly. Have you noticed that when you try to sleep, you cannot, but when you stop trying, sleep comes? This is the greatest lesson sleep offers. Effort is the enemy of rest, and effort is also the enemy of awakening. Sleep teaches without words. It says stop chasing, stop fixing, stop becoming, just be. And in that being, healing happens automatically. Old tensions dissolve, wounds soften, the nervous system resets, the soul, yes, the soul, stretches its limbs. You call this unconsciousness because you are addicted to control. Anything that does not obey your will feels like absence. But absence of control is not absence of life. It is fullness. One day you will realize that the quality you experience in deep, peaceful sleep is the same quality mystics talk about in enlightenment. Silence without dullness, emptiness without fear. Sleep is not the opposite of awareness. It is awareness resting in itself. You enter it every night, unknowingly. And that is grace. If you could learn to enter it knowingly, even for a few moments, your whole life would change. Not dramatically, not loudly, but irreversibly. Because once you taste awareness without effort, you will never again believe that consciousness requires struggle. Sleep is not unconsciousness. It is consciousness finally allowed to be innocent again. And innocence is the deepest intelligence there is. Listen to these words, not as ideas, not as teachings, but as sounds moving through silence. The mind has been trained to chase, to improve, to fix itself endlessly. It believes growth is always the result of effort. It believes that if it does not push, nothing will happen. This belief is the deepest conditioning and also the greatest barrier. The mind is a doer. Listening is not doing, listening is allowing. The moment you try to transform, you have already assumed something is wrong with you. And from that assumption, all struggle is born. You saint art, climbing imaginary ladders toward imaginary goals, always becoming, never arriving. But real transformation does not come from becoming, it comes from dropping. When the mind stops trying, it does not become lazy, it becomes available. Trying is noise, listening is space. Trying tightens the muscles of thought, listening relaxes them. In that relaxation, something deeper than thought begins to operate. You don't force it, you don't guide it, you don't even recognize it at first. It works quietly, like roots growing underground. The mind wants immediate proof. It wants progress you can measure, results you can display. Listening offers none of that. It offers only presence. And presence feels empty to a mind addicted to movement. But that emptiness is fertile. Have you noticed that the most meaningful moments of your life did not come when you were trying to make them happen? Love arrived unexpectedly. Insight appeared suddenly. Peace touched you briefly when you were not seeking it at all. The mind was silent then. Listening is not waiting for words. Listening is the absence of interference. When the mind stops trying to interpret, control, judge, or compare, reality speaks in a different language. A language of sensation, intuition, subtle feeling. You feel before you understand. You know before you can explain. This knowing cannot be forced. Effort belongs to survival. Listening belongs to truth. The mind evolved to protect you, not to awaken you. Its job is to anticipate danger, solve problems, maintain identity. When you ask it to deliver transformation, it does what it knows best. It struggles, and struggle can only rearrange the old. Transformation is not rearrangement. It is dissolution. That dissolution happens only when the mind steps aside. When you listen deeply, you are not gathering information. You are tuning in. The body listens. The breath ends. Even silence listens. There is a soft intelligence in you that does not speak in sentences. It nudges. It whispers. It pulls you gently away from what no longer serves you. But it cannot be heard over the noise of effort. Trying is shouting at existence. Listening is hearing its reply. You have been taught that discipline creates change, that willpower conquers weakness, that intensity leads to breakthrough. And for the outer world this may be true, but the inner world follows different laws. Here softness is strength. Here receptivity is power. When the mind stops trying, defenses drop. You are no longer fighting yourself. And when the inner war ends, energy once wasted on resistance becomes available for growth that happens on its own. Listening requires courage. It means you don't know where you're going. It means you let go of familiar patterns, even painful ones. The mind clings to suffering because it knows it. Listening may lead you into the unknown, and that terrifies the mind, so it keeps trying. But the moment you dare to stop, even briefly, a new order reveals itself. Not imposed, not commanded, but emerging naturally, like a river finding its course. When you truly listen, you are not separate from what you listen to. The boundary dissolves. You are not observing life. You are participating in it. This participation transforms you without effort. You don't decide to change. Change happens. Not because you planned it, but because you stopped resisting it. The mind believes transformation is an event, a sudden explosion, a dramatic shift. But real change is subtle. It enters quietly the way dawn enters the night, unnoticed until everything is different. Listening allows this kind of change. It bypasses ambition. It slips past ego. And that is why it works. When the mind stops trying, it rests. And in that rest, it becomes transparent. Live. E can be seen clearly, felt deeply, trusted fully. You are not transformed by effort. You are transformed by intimacy with what is. Listening is intimacy. It asks nothing. It demands nothing. It simply opens. And in that opening, something ancient, wise, and compassionate moves through you, reshaping you gently, patiently, without your permission and without your control. That is why the mind fears listening. And that is why listening is the doorway. Transformation does not come when you conquer yourself. It comes when you finally hear yourself. Effort belongs to the surface of life. Silence belongs to its depth. You can push the mind all day, discipline it, train it, force it into patterns, and something may change. But those changes remain shallow, like rearranging furniture in a burning house. Silence does not rearrange. Silence extinguishes the fire. When you are drifting into sleep, effort naturally falls away. The body becomes heavy. The will loosens its grip. Thought slows, stumbles, fades. This is not weakness. This is intelligence taking over. Silence enters not as something you create, but as something you allow. And what is allowed can go where effort never reaches. Effort always moves outward. Silence moves inward. Effort demands attention. Silence absorbs it. In waking life, effort is useful. It builds, achieves, survives. But the deeper layers of your being do not respond to commands. They respond to permission. The unconscious does not understand orders. It understands atmosphere. Silence is that atmosphere. As you drift into sleep, you enter a sacred threshold. You are no longer fully awake, no longer fully asleep. The mind is disarmed. It is tired of pretending, tired of controlling. This is when silence can touch places untouched for years. Old tensions loosen without analysis. Wounds soften without explanation. Fear melts without argument. Silence does not fix, it dissolves. Effort is noisy. Even spiritual effort makes sound. I must improve. I must awaken. I must become better. These thoughts create ripples. Silence creates stillness. And stillness allows truth to sink. Have you noticed that the deepest realizations come when you are quiet? In the shower, before sleep, just after waking? Never when you are trying to understand. Understanding is a function of effort. Transformation is a function of silence. When you drift into sleep, you are at your most receptive. The gates are open. The guards are gone. This is why lullabies have always existed. This is why prayer at night feels deeper. This is why listening without effort at bedtime changes you more than hours of study. The mind cannot resist what it does not notice. Silence slips past resistance. Effort creates friction. Silence creates flow. Effort tightens the nervous system. Silence relaxes it. And in relaxation, healing happens automatically. The body realigns. The psyche rebalances. The soul, if you allow the word, breathes. You are not healed by effort. You are healed by safety. Silence creates safety. Think of a lake. When the surface is disturbed, you see nothing clearly. When it is still, the depth becomes visible. Effort is disturbance. Silence is clarity. As sleep approaches, the lake settles, and in that settling, hidden things rise gently to the surface, not to trouble you, but to be released. Silence is not empty. It is full of intelligence. The world has taught you to strive, to push, to fight even your own mind. Silence teaches the opposite lesson: stop interfering. Life knows what it is doing. You don't tell your heart how to beat. You don't tell your lungs how to breathe. Why do you think you must tell your soul how to heal? Silence trusts the natural order. When effort fails, people feel frustrated. When silence is misunderstood, people feel afraid. They think nothing is happening. But the deepest work is invisible. Seeds grow in darkness. So does transformation. Sleep is darkness. Silence is the soil. As you drift into sleep, silence wraps around you like a cloak. If you stop trying to use it, it will use you, gently reshaping, reprogramming, restoring. Effort works on the conscious level. Silence works on the roots. That is why a single silent night can change more than years of struggle. Effort asks, what should I do next? Silence answers, rest. And in that rest, everything aligns. You don't need to understand this, you only need to experience. The moment you stop trying to sleep, sleep comes. The moment you stop trying to change, change happens. Silence has all been doing the work. You were just too loud to notice. As you sink deeper into sleep, remember this not as a thought but as a feeling. Silence is not passive. It is profoundly active. It works where effort cannot go, only lived. That's why you tell no one. The moment something truly real happens inside you, language becomes inadequate. Words are made for the marketplace, for exchange, for negotiation. Inner experiences are not transactions. They are transformations. They do not move from one person to another, they move through you. When you try to explain an inner shift, it immediately becomes smaller, not because you are dishonest, but because truth loses depth when translated into sound. What you felt was vast, silent, intimate. What you say becomes thin, public, exposed. Something sacred evaporates the moment it is spoken. This is not secrecy. This is reverence. The mind wants to narrate everything. It wants witnesses. It wants confirmation. It wants to be seen as special, awakened, changed. And the moment you speak, the ego enters quietly and claims the experience. It says, "This happened to me," but what happened within was not personal. It was universal. It did not belong to you. It passed through you. Inner experiences are like dreams where you are awake. They have a texture, a feeling, a truth, but no clear outline. Try to explain a dream and watch it dissolve in your hands. You use words, yet the essence escapes, not because the dream was unreal, but because it was too real for language. When something happens within, it rearranges you silently. Your reactions soften, your urgency drops, your fear loses authority. These are not things you do, they are things that happen. And because you did not cause them, you cannot explain them. You can only live differently. Telling others too soon freezes the experience. It turns a living process into a finished story. Once something becomes a story, it stops growing. The mind loves conclusions. Truth loves continuity. That is why inner experiences ask for silence, not to hide, but to mature. Have you noticed that the deepest love you feel cannot be explained? You can say, "I love you," but those words carry only a shadow of what you feel. And the more you try to explain, the more inadequate the explanation feels. The inner world is like that, only more subtle. It does not need validation. It does not need applause. It needs space. When you tell no one, something strange happens. The experience deepens. It roots itself. It begins to express, not through words, but through presence. People may notice a change. They may not, it does not matter. Because the change is not for display. There is also another danger in speaking too soon. Doubt. When you share an inner experience, it meets other minds. And other minds carry their own noise, skepticism, projections. Their questions can shake something that was still fragile, still forming. Silence protects the unborn, just as a seed is protected by soil, an inner shift is protected by quiet. This is why ancient wisdom was always passed in silence first, words later. First the being changed, then the teaching emerged naturally. When words came before transformation, they became empty philosophy. Living truth does not argue. It radiates. The deepest inner events do not shout. They whisper. Sometimes they don't even whisper. They simply are. You wake up one day and realize you are no longer fighting something you used to fight. You are no longer afraid of something that once controlled you. There was no announcement, no ceremony, just a quiet shift. To tell no one is not to suppress. It is to trust that what is real does not need reinforcement. To trust that what is alive will express itself in its own time. The world is full of people talking about experiences they have not lived. And because of that noise, real experiences hide. They choose silence over spectacle. If something truly happens within you, you will feel no urge to convince anyone. The need to explain disappears not because you are PR, but because you are full. Words are bridges between people. Silence is a bridge to yourself, and some crossings must be made alone. What happens within is intimate beyond sharing. It is not antisocial. It is sacred. And that is why you tell no one. Daylight is loud. It demands attention, action, explanation. It asks you to perform, to prove, to move. Under the sun, you are busy becoming someone. A role, a name, a function. Night asks nothing of you. It does not care who you are. It does not ask where you are going. It simply surrounds you and waits. Night teaches by subtraction. It removes color, detail, urgency. Shapes soften. Distances blur. And with that softening, the mind loses its grip. You cannot see as clearly, and so you stop trying to control what you see. This is the first lesson. Clarity is not always light. Sometimes clarity comes when things are dim. In daylight, a mind dominates. It categorizes, measures, evaluates. Everything must make sense. Night does not cooperate with logic. It invites intuition instead. Sounds become deeper. Feelings become louder. Thoughts slow down, not because you force them, but because night has a calming gravity. The nervous system relaxes when darkness arrives. This is not coincidence. It is design. Night is not emptiness. It is intimacy. When the world quiets, you finally hear yourself. Not the voice you use in public, but the one that whispers when no one is watching. Regrets surface. Longings surface. Truths you avoided all day rise gently, not to punish you, but to be acknowledged. Night does not judge. It reveals. You may have noticed this. Questions you could not answer all day suddenly feel simple at night. Decisions feel clearer. Emotions you suppress begin to breathe. The mask you wore loosens. Night does not demand courage. It gives it. Because courage is easier when no one is looking. During the day you are distracted by visibility. You worry about how things appear. At night, appearance disappears. You don't need to look strong. You don't need to be right. You don't need to be certain. Uncertainty becomes safe in the dark, and in that safety, honesty emerges. Night teaches you how to rest without guilt. It reminds you that stopping is natural, not lazy. Everything rests. Trees, birds, even the sky seems to soften. Only humans resist, carrying the day into the dark with their thoughts. But the moment you surrender, night receives you fully. It says, you have done enough. Daylight trains the intellect. Night trains awareness. The intellect sharpens distinctions. Awareness dissolves them. Boundaries blur. You feel connected to something vast, unnamed. The stars are not instructive. They are humbling. Night teaches humility effortlessly. Truths revealed at night are not loud realizations. They are quiet recognitions. You don't think them, you feel them. A sense of what matters and what does not rearranges itself. Ambitions shrink. Essentials expand. This is why mystics loved the night. Not because they rejected the world, but because night revealed its depth. Night also teaches patience. Nothing can be rushed in darkness. You move slower, you listen more, you trust what you cannot see. And this trust is not blind. It is sensitive. You become alert in a different way. If you relax into night, instead of fighting it with screens and noise, it becomes a mirror. You see yourself without distraction. Not the edited version, not the practiced one, the real one. And the real one is not flawed. It is unfinished. Night accepts that. Daylight hides truths behind activity. Night strips activity away. What remains is essence. You realize how little you actually need. You realize how much of your struggle is unnecessary. This realization does not depress you. It liberates you. To relax into night is to trust the rhythm of existence. To accept that life is not meant to be constant effort. The darkness is not failure. It is renewal. Seeds grow at night. Healing deepens at night. Understanding matures at night. Night does not shout its lessons. It waits for your surrender. The more you resist it, the more restless you become. The more you soften, the more it opens. Night is a teacher without words. It teaches by presence, and if you allow it, it will show you truths that daylight never could, truths that can only be seen when the world becomes quiet and you finally stop running.